Good morning and welcome to Bara Church. My name is Joel. I'm the lead pastor here, and it's my great honor to begin our gathering with prayer. Will you pray with me, please? Father, this is your church. You are the chief shepherd. You created the church and called Bara Church into existence. You died for the church. You sustain the church. Your spirit fulfills and flows through the church. You've given us the Great Commission. You've asked us to follow the Great Commandment. And Father, we want to be a great church, but we know, Father, that it's going to take a great commitment. And today, Father, as we think about friendship and the role of commitment in that endeavor, I pray that you would move in our hearts, that you would speak to our souls, that you would have your way. I thank you for the commitment you have for us, Father, and we want to worship you now because you have shown us what true love looks like. So we adore you, we worship you, we want to bless your name now. May you get all the glory in today's worship, in this gathering. We love you, Jesus, and it's through your beautiful name we pray for a church that I love. Amen.
Good morning, Bara Church. Let's worship together. You are good when there's nothing good in me. You are love on display for all to see. You are light when the darkness closes in. You are hope, you have covered all my sin. You are peace when my fear is crippling. You are true, even in my wandering. You are joy, you're the reason that I sing. You are life, in you death has lost its sting. I'm running to your arms, I'm running to your arms. The riches of your love will always be enough. Nothing compares to your embrace. Light of the world, forever reign. You are more than my words will ever say. You are Lord, all creation will proclaim. You are here, in your presence I'm made whole. You are God, of all else I'm letting go. And I'm running to your arms, I'm running to your arms. The riches of your love will always be enough. Nothing compares to your embrace. Light of the world, forever reign. I'm running to your arms, I'm running to your arms. The riches of your love will always be enough. Nothing compares to your embrace. Light of the world, forever reign. My heart will sing, no other name. Jesus, Jesus. My heart will sing, no other name. Jesus, Jesus. My heart will sing, no other name. Jesus, Jesus. My heart will sing, no other name. Jesus, Jesus. And I'm running to your arms. I'm running to your arms. The riches of your love will always be enough. Nothing compares to your embrace. Light of the world, forever reign. I'm running to your arms. I'm running to your arms. The riches of your love will always be enough. Nothing compares to your embrace. Light of the world, forever reign. For me, love's like a hurricane. I am a tree bending beneath the weight of his wind and mercy. And all of a sudden I'm unaware of these afflictions eclipsed by glory. And I realize just how beautiful you are and how great your affections are for me. Oh, how he loves us so. Oh, how he loves us. How he loves us so. Like a hurricane, I am a tree bending beneath the weight of his wind and mercy. And all of a sudden I'm unaware of these afflictions eclipsed by glory. And I realize just how beautiful you are and how great your affections are for me. Oh, how he loves us so. Oh, how he loves us. How he loves us so. Yeah, he loves us. Oh, how he loves us. Oh, how he loves us. Oh, how he loves. Yeah, he loves us. Oh, how he loves us. Oh, how he loves us. Oh, how he loves. We are his portion, he is our prize, drawn to redemption by the grace in his eyes. If his grace is an ocean, we're all sinking. So heaven meets earth like an unforeseen kiss. My heart turns violently inside of my chest. Now I don't have time to maintain these regrets when I think about the way that he loves us. Oh, how he loves us. Oh, how
Moon Bara Church, and thank you for joining us. If you could do us a favor and go to barachurch.com/IamNew and fill out a little information about yourself so we can connect with you. Now let's get ready for the message.
So this is Kim's mother's china. We've got it. We've got this piece here. We got more than one, but it's really, really valuable to us because it's from Kim's mom. Now it's not that the plate is so valuable, but back in the day, our grandparents and great-grandparents, they ate all their meals on this china, and they would have this china for a long time. They probably got it as a wedding gift, and they would hang on to it for all their life, if not most of it, but probably all of it. And so we don't use china that much anymore. We've actually got this little thing called chinette or paper plates. And paper plates are cool, I guess. I use them. We're not anti-paper plate. Probably not the best thing in the world for the environment, but the reality is when you're done with eating on this plate, you wash it and put it back in the cupboard. You probably dried it. You probably took care of it. With these things, you dirty it and then you throw it away. And then the next day you get up and you say, oh, what's for breakfast? And I don't want to do dishes and I don't even have china, so I'll just throw it away when I'm done. And then I'll have some lunch and I'll just throw it away. And when I'm done with using this plate, when I've got everything I need to out of it, I'll throw it away. And in fact, I really don't want to eat anymore, so I'm done and I'll throw it away. You get the idea. We have become a disposable, a quick to be done with society, and nowhere else is that more true than with regards to the word friend or friendships in general. You know, we've really messed up this word. Like I said last week, we have this internet and the social media craze, and we think we have all these friends, and I hate to break it to you, but you do not have thousands of friends, at least according to an accurate or biblical definition of friend. And here's how I know they're not your friends. Because they say friends, and they're in the category of friends, but when they post something you don't like, you block them. Or when they say something online that you disagree with, you might unfollow them. Or heaven forbid they challenge your political view, and you'll just straight up unfriend them. You get the idea. It's too quick to be done with friends to call them friends. Those are not friends. And in fact, It should come as no surprise that the evolution of this mindset, this concept, this attitude is the cancel culture. And so we're all up in arms like, I can't believe you get canceled. You make a mistake and you're canceled. You say something incorrect and we're done with you. You've lost a privilege. You can't be in charge of this, or you're going to have to be fired. You get the point, right? The cancel culture is just an extension of a mindset that says, when I'm through with you, when you serve no purpose, when we don't agree, when you frustrate me, we're done. It's not for life. It's for however long I determine it needs to be. And of course, we've just evolved in this in so many ways. I remember when I was a kid, you'd put the TV show on and you were stuck with it unless you wanted to get up and walk all the way across the room to change the channel. You were just committed to it. It wasn't easy. Now it's like click, click, click. Oh, I don't like that. Click. I don't like that. Click. Free agency in sports. It's like, oh, I'm going to root for this team, and then they have this player, and you really like the player, but he wants a better deal, and so he's done with this team and this fan base, and he's moving on to better things. In the car now, you have a playlist. Back in the day, you'd have the radio, and yeah, you could change the radio, but they still controlled what it was. It wasn't like you could pick the songs. And now we're in charge. We make decisions, and we want everything how we like it, how it makes sense to us. And the same works out with our friends. Even kids running the show and parents catering to them all leads into this disposable attitude of, hey, you know what? I really don't appreciate that, so I'm going to cancel you. I'm going to be done with you. Last week we said that friendship takes connection. You got to have your souls knit together. You got to become one. You got to become one as in unity. You got to become one as in a good friend. And this series is not so much about us having a good friend, although I'm praying that's the case, although I want that for my life and my family's life. I want that for you. But at the end of the day, the person we have the most control over is ourselves, and the person that we're going to focus on in this series is ourselves, and we're going to become, we're going to remain and stay a good friend. And it takes connection, but it also takes commitment. I'm calling today's message, Fine China. Fine China. Now, here's the deal. You might even say, I want us to be fine China friends. We'll stay in the story of David and Jonathan. We'll begin where we left off last week in 1 Samuel chapter 18, verses 1 through 3. We'll move quickly into a couple events of 19 and then 20, and then we'll jump to 23, and we'll get all the way to 2 Samuel chapter 9 as we flesh out this concept of endurance, of staying the course, of being loyal, of commitment. So, we'll read 1 Samuel 18, 1 through 3 to start us off. After David had finished talking with Saul, Jonathan became one in spirit with David, and he loved him as himself. We read that last week. Again, David is the guy that beats Goliath, and Saul is the king at the time. Jonathan is his son. And in fact, let me just pause. I said last week that they were contemporaries. Well, they were both warriors. They both fought Philistines. But in further research this week, most scholars believe that Jonathan was quite a bit older than David, so they weren't like peers as in same age, they just had same roles. Jonathan is next in line for the kingdom. He's going to become the king until God anoints David, because he takes the blessing away from the father, Saul. So Jonathan's probably almost 50. David is pushing 20. He's not fighting age. So you have this age difference, but they are definitely one. They become one in spirit. David is loved by Jonathan as himself, and here's verse 2. From that day, Saul kept David with him and did not let him return to his home, to his family. So they're real close, right? They're in the same house. David is still playing the lyre or the harp and music for Saul to calm him down, but they're close. And here's what happens in verse 3. And Jonathan made a covenant with David because he loved him as himself. Now, when you hear the word covenant, you tend to think wedding. It's a wedding thing. It's between a husband and wife, a man and woman. It's a covenant before God in the presence of witnesses. That's what a covenant is. And that's true. That is a covenant, but it is also part of friendship, for sure, biblical friendship. And in the context of this, David and Jonathan, it's not just a one-way. Although Jonathan made a covenant with David, a covenant's always a two-way street. If you only have a covenant between one person, that's like crazy. That's a stalker. That's somebody that is trying to become something that not. So you don't have to be friends with everybody. If somebody comes to you and says, "Hey, I want to make a covenant with you to be your friend," you're not under any obligation to go, "Oh, well, he made a covenant." Like, no. But in a good friendship, a strong friendship, one that will last, commitment and also covenant is going to be important. Now, David and Jonathan, they make several oaths in these texts that we'll read, but they're not the only ones. In fact, Saul in chapter 19, we'll pick it up in around verse 6, he makes an oath too. Saul listened to Jonathan and took this oath: "As surely as the Lord lives, David will not be put to death." Now, Jonathan was doing a little recon, trying to figure out if his dad Saul was going to kill David. David's on the run. Saul's already hurled a spear at David at this point. But Saul swears, he takes an oath and says, "I make a commitment, a promise. David will not be put to death. He will live." Now, it's kind of true because Saul never puts him to death. But it's certainly not for a lack of trying. If you were to read back through the rest of 18 and into the start of 19, you see Saul is trying to kill David. He does not like David. He is mad. And so Saul doesn't keep his oath. So an oath is only as good as the commitment and the ability to keep it. A lot of people can give lip service, but you got to do the work to stay committed. So why does Saul want to kill David? What's behind that? What's underlying issues? Like, I thought David beat Goliath and made Saul look great, and then David, we see in 18, he gets taken into Saul's house, and it's like a good thing, right? Well, why is he trying to throw a spear at him and kill him? Because Saul is jealous and selfish. When people start singing, when the girls start singing, Saul has slain his thousands, but David his tens of thousands, and that cuts Saul the heart. He didn't like that. He's the king. He's a foot taller than everybody. He's the man. Let me tell you something. That jealousy, that selfishness, that pride that Saul has was enough to make him want to kill the one that actually saved him. The one that brought peace to his palace. The one that he said, "Come into my house," he now wants to kill because of selfishness, because of jealousy, because of pride. And I wish that I could report that this was the only time that jealousy and selfishness and pride tried to kill a friendship. In fact, Saul never did kill David, but selfishness and jealousy and pride have killed many of friendships, broken many of commitments. So, I think that's just telling. I think we should just stop right there and say, hey, part of our commitment is to not be that, is to let the Spirit flow through us. If we really want to live a committed friendship with people, we said that God made friendship. It was His idea. It's a big thing. You got to have a selfless spirit and a humble spirit, and one that's not jealous, but one that wants the best for the other person. So, let's pick it up in 20 verse 3. 20 verse 3. More covenant, more commitment. David took an oath and said, "Your father knows very well that I found favor in your eyes." And he said to himself, "Jonathan must know this, or he will be grieved. Yet as surely as the Lord lives, and as you live, there's only one step between me and death." So David says, look, I'm going to make an oath to you, Jonathan. I'm not going to hurt you. You've already made an oath to me. We've made an oath to each other back in 18, and now it's reaffirmed in 20, and it continues to be reaffirmed because this commitment is not a one-time thing. It's a consistent thing, a daily thing. You've got to stay dedicated to the relationship. Now, for 15 years, David is on the run from Saul. For 15 years, this covenant, this committed relationship, this friendship is flushed out with basically David on the run and Jonathan torn between allegiance to his dad Saul, the king, or to his friend David, the future king. And in chapter 23, we're going to see something that's interesting that I want to turn our attention to. We'll pick it up 23. Let's see where we'll get. Let's go to 14. David stayed in the wilderness strongholds and in the hill of the desert of Ziph. Day after day, Saul searched for him, but God did not give David into his hands. While David was at Horsh in the desert of Ziph, he learned that Saul had come out to take his life. And Jonathan went to David at Horsh and helped him find strength in God. Now just pause there. Day after day, Saul is searching for David with an army, and he can't find him. But the Bible says, well, Jonathan went out and he went to David. You think, well, why is that? Now we know that God is part of that, the protection, the divine protection, but it's not like David standing outside, waving with a smoke signal for Jonathan to see. What I believe is that Jonathan went to caves, he went to valleys, he went to cities, he went around, he kept on it, he stayed with it, he stayed committed, he did not give up easily. And that's the big thing about friendship. You got to be connected, but you got to be committed. And so we read this and it sounds quick and easy, but it's not. I think there's a big commitment on Jonathan's part. And we know there's a big commitment because if his dad finds out that he's helping David, he's going to get killed. He's going to get killed. Well, it continues. He goes and he finds him and he says this, verse 16, helped him find strength in God. So our commitment's not just to be a friend or become one, it's to help them be stronger in the Lord. Verse 17, don't be afraid, he said. My father Saul will not lay a hand on you. You will be king over Israel, and I'll be second to you. Even my father Saul knows this. And think about that. I'm going to be second to you. It doesn't sound like pride. It doesn't sound like selfishness. It doesn't sound like jealousy. I'm okay with it. I'm going to be second to you. And here's what happens next. Verse 18. The two of them made a covenant before the Lord. 18. Jonathan commits to David. 19. David commits to Jonathan. 20. They continue to commit to each other. That is at the essence of friendship. Every time you read about these guys, there's commitment, there's covenant, there's this commitment to each other, this devotion that's divine. And it's like, hey, I'm with you. Don't worry. I'm going to encourage you. I believe in you. I believe in you. I'm not going to hurt you. Everything's going to be good. And it just continues. And all the way till you get to 2 Samuel chapter 9. This is where it gets crazy. David actually, as a part of his commitment and his covenant, shows kindness long after Jonathan's been killed. Jonathan dies at the end of 1 Samuel with his dad. He stays committed to his dad even though his dad's not walking with the Lord and the blessing's been removed. He doesn't dishonor his dad. He fights side by side, but he puts David, because he knows the Lord's blessing is a part of that, puts him first, but he doesn't turn his back on his dad, but he dies in battle. David mourns. There's sadness. There's grief. We'll hit more of that next week. But when we get to chapter 9 of 2 Samuel, this is what we see. David asked, is there anyone still left of the house of Saul to whom I can show kindness for Jonathan's sake? David saying, man, I made a commitment to my boy Jonathan, to my friend. I made a commitment to him, and if there's anyone in this family still alive, I'm going to continue to keep that commitment. Well, there was a little boy named Mishbosheth, and what happens is he is lame in his feet. So they bring him before David, and David says, don't be afraid, for I will surely show you kindness for the sake of your father Jonathan. I will restore to you all the land that belonged to your grandfather Saul. That's a lot of land. Now David's the king at this time. That's a big deal. He's like, I'm going to give you all the land that Saul had, even though you can't run it and you couldn't take care of it. But here's what he says next. And you will always eat at my table. The commitment to Jonathan continues all the way out to Jonathan's son, Mephibosheth. I mean, that's an amazing thought, a beautiful thought. It highlights the role of commitment and friendship to me, I don't expect us to have this in every friendship. As I process this, I realize how it could sound. It sounds pretty marital. It sounds pretty deep. I mean, there's a passage that we'll hit next week where they're like crying and hugging and kissing each other because they're such good friends. And I don't expect you to go to all your Facebook friends and be like, hey man, pastor said that you're not even a real friend, so delete, don't post and say, I really don't have any friends. None of you guys are friends. Y'all are fakes. And then deactivate your account. I'm not saying that. And certainly don't roll up to your boy's house and knock on the door and be like, hey, can I see your hand? And get your pocket knife out, cut their hand and cut your hand real quick. And then, hey man, I'm making a covenant with you. And the guy's like, bro, did you just put blood on me? And that would be really weird and spooky. And then in the middle of a pandemic, it'd be just crazy. And then you'd panic and squirt hand sanitizer in both y'all's hands to try to right the wrong, which stings. And I digress. But the point is this. You get the idea. We've got to be committed to our friends. We've got to be committed. Not to everybody. Not everybody gets this level. But the ones that we want to last. The ones that we are not content with just pitching when it gets hard. When it gets challenging. When it gets difficult. We're going to have a commitment. So what does commitment look like in a friendship of 2021? Well, I've got 5 practical. These are small, not easy, but smaller, incremental, small steps, part of the whole concept of commitment. I broke it down. You can work on one, you can work on another one, you can pick one, you can go in order. Doesn't matter, but just this is how friendship might express itself, how commitment, would express itself within regards to friendship. Again, keep in mind, remember, this is not about having a good friend. This is about being a good friend, becoming one, not being a paper plate pal, but a fine china friend. So here we go. A commitment to a friend will include a commitment to time. You're going to have to put in the time. It's going to take time. It is easier to get a paper plate, put your food on it, throw it away, than it is to get a dish, eat off it, wash it, dry it, put it back up. It's easier. It's going to take time. If you want to have a relationship that matters, if you want to have a committed relationship, it's going to take time. We read about it. It looks real quick. This is not like a scene from Step Brothers where Will Ferrell says, do we just become best friends? It's not like that. It takes time. And if you want a relationship that's got commitment, it's going to be investments, incremental deposits of time. Next, it's going to take tenderness. Now, I don't want to talk too long about this because we're going to hit it hard next week. We're going to talk about emotional vulnerability, being authentic. We're talking about courage and being real. But tenderness is a part of it. You need a commitment to tenderness. You need to not be afraid to show the real you to that other person if you want there to be a commitment. The kissed him verse, again, we'll hit it next week. I even got a funny story about how that's practiced still today. Trust, again, a big deal. We'll hit it in greater detail next week, but trust is a part of it. If you're going to share things that matter, if you want a relationship that matters, you need to share things that matter. I'll say it like that. If you want a relationship that matters, something that's special, significant, you're going to have to share things that matter. You're going to have to be open and vulnerable. There needs to be trust. Again, we'll hit it hard next week. Number 4, treasure. You got to value it. You got to raise the priority of a friendship in your life. None of this, I'm my own man, I'm my own woman, I don't need friends, and forget them, and you know what, I'm done with them, I'm just tired of listening. No, you got to have to treasure it. It's going to have to be something that you carry and care about and take care of if you want it to work. You got to value it. 2 Samuel 1:26, David laments and he's thinking about Jonathan after Jonathan's death, and he says, your love was more valuable than even the love of my wives. Now, again, platonic relationship, nothing different, but the reality is that there is so much commitment between these two. It basically was like, I didn't even have that with my marriage, and I'm not saying that should be the case. Our marriages should have a covenant, right? But David's like, man, this was special. And then the fifth one, the last one, is tenacity. So again, if you're taking notes, these are all T's, right? You got time, and what was the second one? Tenderness, and then trust, and now you have treasure, and now tenacity. Tenacity is a bedrock resolve. It's this doggedness. It's this persistent determination. When trials come, I'm not going to give up. Like I can't get this plate to open up here. I'm not giving up. I'm not stopping. You're going to stay the course. You're going to be devoted. You're not going to tap out. No blocking, no deleting, no canceling. It's like the phrase that some people use today, a little more inner city, a little more urban, younger. It's my ride or die. Like Kim's my ride or die. Like it comes from like, I'm going to ride with you, be alongside of you, or I'm going to die trying. Like that's the only thing that's going to separate us. Again, we think of covenant and this strong commitment within marriages, but in the Bible, and if you really want a friendship, you're going to have to bring a level of commitment to that friendship. You're going to have some people that are your ride or dies. Again, 5 practical things that you can reflect upon, pray about, work on, figure out, get help on. But ideally, you'll practice them. They'll strengthen the bond of your friendships. So I told you last week, I was both excited about this series and a little scared too. I knew this one would be a little bit harder as I talk about commitment, and that's hard. But I've done that in my life. I have friends that I'm committed to and I have lifelong friendships with, no doubt. But next week is courage, and I'm just telling you that's hard. But I'm gonna practice it. I'm gonna get out in front of it. I'm gonna do a little bit of groundwork for it now. And this takes a little bit of courage from me, but I'm gonna make a confession. And it's hard to say because I don't want it to be misunderstood, and especially on the internet, people that don't know me, don't know my heart, might be like, what is that about? But let me just tell you this. One of the hardest things for Kim and I know for other pastors, but for Kim and I, just speaking from experience personally, is in the area of friendships as a pastor. As pastors, as leaders, it's hard. Because it's really difficult to know when this person that comes into your life is part of the flock or there to be a friend. Flock is somebody you care for and you care about, but a friend is somebody you commit to. Not that I don't have a commitment to my flock. Don't hear me say that, but flock can come and go, sadly. But not sadly in every way. I mean, we're not a cult. That's not going to keep you here. It's not like, I get people move and all that stuff, but a friend, especially the kind you commit to, it's just different. Sheep wander into the pen and they wiggle out, and sometimes you don't even see it, and maybe that's on you and maybe it's on them, kind of. Let me just explain. Today, on Sunday, we're going to have Genesis. And we've got some people that are going to come find out about Bara Church. And let's say, Lord willing, some of them go, we love this. This is our family. These are our people. Man, we're going to ride or die. And they get all excited and they say, we're with you and we're with Bara. But then, what I've learned the hard way is that it just might mean they want to be flock, because you might make a decision or take the church in a direction that they might disagree with. And what happens when they disagree is they just kind of throw up the deuces and peace out on the pasture and go for greener pastures and head for the hills, and it's sad. And, you know, there's really no great way to leave a church. And this is not about a sermon about that, but I'm just confessing that this is a struggle for Kim and I. I know it's a struggle for others. People take us to dinner, and they always drop the bomb on us at dinner. And, you know, I don't know. It's just a weird thing. Like, you're at dinner, and they're like, hey, we love you guys. We just want to take you to dinner, but we're going to be looking for a new church. And, oh, my gosh, this salsa is so good. And you're sitting there like, appetizers going, this can be a whip, man. I'm sad. I'm hurt. My heart is heavy. And you know, we try our best. And they're saying they're going to go look for a new church, but sometimes like the enemy comes in and whispers and we just hear, hey, we think you guys might be the Antichrist and Bara's Beelzebub, and y'all are like, this is bad. Like, we're out. Like, you just hear things that maybe they don't even intend. Oh my gosh, this salsa is so yummy. But you know, so I tell people now, like, if you're going to leave Bara, like, you don't have to take us to dinner. Although you could write us a card and maybe drop a gift card in, and we'll go out to dinner and not have to have you there. I'm kidding. Again, if you don't know my heart, you think, oh, what a jerk. But I'm just telling you, it's sad, it's hard, it's difficult, because when you care for people, you care for sheep, you care for the flock, but man, when I drop the word friend, it's a little different. Because I don't go through friends like paper plates. And Kim and I, man, I don't know if you've noticed, we're ride or die with Bara Church. We're not going anywhere. I've told people that. They'll go to leave and I'll be like, you know where we'll be. We're committed to this group, this family, this flock. We're here through the thick and the thin, through the easy and the hard. Like, we're here when it's good, when it's bad, when it's... I mean, could you imagine doing that with a real friend? Like, you would never do that. Hey, Frank, or excuse me, Billy, excuse me, I've got your name wrong. Billy and Susan, I want to take you to dinner. You get to dinner and you're like, hey, we just wanted to take you to dinner. Order whatever you want. Billy and Susan, listen, we're going to be, Kim and I took you to this nice restaurant to tell you that we're going to be looking for some new friends. Yeah, we're going to find some new friends. So, man, this sauce is really good though, isn't it? What are you guys going to order? I think I'll have the ribs. I mean, could you imagine the awkwardness and the difficulty of that? I'm just being real. But hear me say this. This series, in my heart, is not about us having good friends. Don't feel sorry for Kim and I, like, oh, people leave the church. That's not it. Because what we've tried to do with everybody that has said, this is not my people, my flock anymore, we've always said, you can call us anytime, and they do. We do funerals, we do weddings, we get the calls at midnight when the wheels come off the car. That's who we... And I'm not bragging, I'm not saying anything great. I'm just saying, they know that we care about them as friends. And friends, man, it's commitment. And as I did last week, I want to close by drawing our attention to Jesus. Because there's other good examples in the Bible, and David and Jonathan are awesome examples. But Jesus, man, it's the best example. The commitment that he has for us, the commitment that he made to us, the way he ran into our lives and not just connected with our soul, but died to save our soul. And not just when we did good, but while we were still sinners and while we were far away from God, Christ died for us. He gave it all. He was committed for us. And if you've never committed your life to Jesus, if you've never said yes to the offer of salvation, to the free gift of grace, my prayer is that you would know and trust and believe that Jesus has already made the commitment to you. He's just waiting for you to make that commitment to him and say, I'm with you. I know you'll never leave or forsake me. I don't pretend to understand it all, but I am going all in. He's already died for you. He wants to ride with you. So give him yourself today. Commit to Jesus today. Now, again, I'm talking to a camera. I don't know who's watching. I assume some are my friends and some I probably just don't know. But let me tell you this, if you were my friend, I would want to be real truthful with you. I'd want to shoot straight with you. I try to do that. But we tend to want that in our friendships, right? Like truth, honesty. So I'm going to tell you the truth. We've been talking about commitment. And you need to know this. You and I will never become the friends to others, to those that need us. We'll never become the friends that God created us and is calling us to be without first a commitment to God. Now, that's not to say that people that don't have a commitment to God can't be good friends. And that's not to say that everybody that puts on the name of Christian is now all of a sudden magically a deeply committed, sold out, ride or die, I'm with you, fine China friend. But the covenant's going to kick in when the crap hits the fan. When things get difficult, when trials come, when tragedy strikes, when storms roll in, that's when you need commitment. I mean, for Jonathan, it got hard, but he stayed committed to David. For David, it got hard. He had made a covenant to Jonathan to not harm his family. He sees Saul in the cave. We didn't get to that part of the story, but he sees Saul in the cave. He cuts a little bit of his robe just to kind of let Saul know, like, I could have killed you, but he doesn't. That's difficult for a guy that's been trying to kill you for 15 years, and you show grace and mercy because of a commitment. For somebody that's dead and gone, and you reach out and ask, hey, is there got any kids left? And you bring them into your house and give them tons of land and invite them to your table always. That's commitment, and it's not always easy. But it was Jonathan's commitment and covenant with God that enabled him to stay committed to David. And it was David's commitment and covenant with God that enabled him to stay committed to Jonathan, as well as Saul, and even Jonathan to Saul. So, my prayer is that we, yes, would have those kind of friends that are committed to God. Therefore, their commitment to us means something. It's going to last for a lifetime because of their commitment and covenant with God. But way more importantly, that you and I would be those kind of friends, would have that kind of commitment that says, because of my love for Christ, I will not stop loving you. And in fact, because of Christ's love for me, I will not stop loving you. No matter what, no matter how hard it gets, you're my ride or die. You're my fine china friend. Let me pray. Lord, let us be those kind of committed friends to those that need us. Thank you that you have been that friend to us, because we certainly need you. We love you. We thank you. Show us now some practical ways. Remind us of some things we can do that will help us strengthen the bond of friendship and be more committed than ever, in hopes that someday our friendships will be the kind where we're committed forever. It's through Jesus that I pray, for a church that I love. Amen.
Hey Bar, Pastor Ryan here for this family time where we get this opportunity to connect. And thank you so much for gathering with us this morning. And here in a minute, we are going to tackle some questions Pastor Joel has for us as we get to head out and be the church. But speaking of commitment, you have been around Bar for some time, and maybe you're looking for something a little bit more committed than just Sunday morning. And we have big groups. That is a great way here at Bara Church for us to abide in community. There are numerous different ones broken up by different phases of life, or where they meet, or where they gather, all these different things that we can come together and find connectivity. And so you can find out more information about that at barachurch.com/bgroups. And you can always email me, Ryan, at barachurch.com, and we'd love to get you connected in those ways. And another thing that you can commit to and mark on your calendar is Friday, October 22nd, we are having our first ever Bara Church Hoedown. That's right, we are bringing in a square dancing caller from Denton, and we are going to have some food that you're going to provide, because it's going to be potluck, and this is going to be a fun night of just dancing and relaxation and good food and fellowship. So you can go to barachurch.com/hoedown. Let us know how many from your clan will be attending that great night, as well as the wonderful food that you will be providing, because we are going to chow down at the Hoedown. It is going to be great. So again, please just go there and let us know who will be attending, what you'll be bringing. Mark that date on your calendar. As always, thank you so much for gathering with us. Do us a favor, subscribe to our YouTube channel. Be sure to write who you're watching with and where you're watching from. So we'd love to just know where you are and how things are going. We love you. Thank you so much for gathering. Now let's check out these questions.